Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's start our Thursday class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Vargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityorma amritam gamya. Om sehna vavatu sehna bhunaktu saviryam karvavahi tejasvi navadhitamastu ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti 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 om. We started studying Kenopanishad couple of weeks ago, and we saw that this Upanishad started with a question or a series of questions where the disciple is saying, by whom willed and directed does the mind light upon its objects? Commanded by whom does the main prana proceed to function? By whose will do men utter speech? What intelligence directs the eyes and the ears towards their respective objects? So with verse number 2, the Rishi started to answer the question or the questions. He said it is the ear of the ear and the mind of the mind, the tongue of the tongue. That means speech of the speech, and also the life of the life and the eye of the eye. Having abandoned the sense of self or I-ness in these and rising above sense life, the wise become immortal. So this is what we discussed last week. Let's look at the continuation of this with verse number 3. Na tat chakshu gachati, na vak gachati, na manana, vidyam na vijaninaha, yatha etat anushishyat, anyat ev tad viditat ath aviditat adhi, iti shushrum purvesham yena tad vyach chakshrehe. Na means not. Tatra means there. Chakshu, eye. Gachati, goes. Na vak, nor the speech. Again, gachati means goes. Na manaha, not the mind. Again, na means not. Vidyam, do we know? Na vija nimaha, do we know perfectly? Yatha etat, how it anushishyat can be instructed. Anyat, very distinct. Tat means that. Viditat, from the known. At means then. Aviditat, from the unknown. Adhi, distinct or extremely. Iti means thus. Shu shrum, we have heard. Purvesham, from the ancestors, from the yogis before us. Ye means who, na means to us, tad means that. Vya chakshre, taught us or stated it perfectly. The eye does not go there. Na tatra chakshu gachati. nor speech, nor mind. We do not know that. So that means even intellect doesn't go there. We do not know that. We do not know how to instruct one about it. If we think we can teach somebody, no, we cannot. It is distinct from the known and above the unknown. We have heard it so stated, the Gurus, Purve Sham, who taught us that. So he says, I'm just telling you what my Guru told me. All these upadhis cannot go there. They have limitations. The gross body has a limitation. The mind has the limitation. The tongue has the limitation. Even the intellect has the limitation. Eyes cannot reach there. It is very plain that consciousness resides. We know that. It is the very consciousness that makes it possible for the eyes to see. Eyes cannot see without it, but eyes cannot see it. It's like I cannot climb on my own shoulders. So eyes cannot see it. It is the light or the truth which the eye sees through. It is the seer behind the eye. It's almost like with a telescope we can see. But a telescope itself cannot see. No matter how advanced the telescope is. So it is the Atma that sees, or rather the seer in us is the real eye that sees. So to the question, what is that which makes the mind go out? The answer given by the Guru is the mind of the mind. It's not the mind which we talk about. So mind of the mind. So this is like some indication of that truth. He's giving it to us. It's almost like a very indirect answer. And it is also a fact that the Atma is the theme or the subject. Atma is not a thing with the qualities or actions. You cannot say Atma acts this way or Atma looks this way. It is not a thing with the quality or actions. So that's why it said that it's not a substance. Naturally, the usual explanation which we normally use for the objective world, that kind of explanation is not available in Brahm Vidya. Because he's talking about the Brahm Vidya. Because normally we know that what is a substance? Substance is a finite thing. Substance has certain qualities. If you look at a tree, we know it's a maple tree or an oak tree or a palm tree, and we can tell from the leaves, we can tell from the size or the color or the place it's grown. So it has some finite things about it. Atma does not have these qualities. That's why it's not a finite thing. It's not a substance. A substance has to be different from me. My body is a substance. It's different than me. My mind is a substance. My intellect is a substance. Finite things can be perceived, or they can be touched, they can be seen. But Atma is beyond the grasp of the senses. It is equivalent to saying that it's a factor without any qualities. It is eternal divine presence without qualities. Nirgun. Gun means the qualities. Nirgun. When a thing is beyond all qualities, Guru explains sometimes with the help of the stories, or sometimes they say that my Guru said it. That is called Agam. So over here he is using that Agam. That the Gurus in the ancient time, they said it, they told me, and this is what I'm telling you. Agam. Or sometimes I have heard the story, if we try to understand it with this intellect, it's almost like the story of the Bhasmasur. You remember Bhasmasur? Bhasam Asur. He just wanted a boon. He did a lot of tapasya. He said to Lord Shiva, he said, give me that boon so that wherever I touch, wherever I put my hand on, that should become a bhasam that burns. Lord Shiva said, Tatha astu. Then he said, let me try it. And he wanted to try it on Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is running and he is going after him. Bhasmasur. That is a story from the Puranas. And this is what happens to us. When we try to understand something with our intellect, intellect is like a Bhasmasur. We think that with this intellect of ours, we can understand everything. We have to surrender this intellect at the feet of a Guru. And remember, whatever his Guru is telling me, have a full faith in it, and then ultimately we'll experience it. That is called Agam. And the process that takes place, when we look at the substance, we are definitely using first our senses, then our mind, then our intellect. That's what we are doing for the substance. But for the Atma, that does not work. We got to remember that. We have to turn that Atma, turn that intellect into intuition with our sadhana. So that means the intellect of ours, we got to make it so subtle that it becomes intuition. And then intuition will glide into the realm of pure consciousness. Because it is there within ourselves. Intuition is not something a part of the Prakriti. Intuition is right there. Definitely we got to do the Shravan first, listen to our Guru. Because that is the very first step to learn Brahm Vidya. But within the course of time, we'll see that through Shravan and Manana, we reach the Nidhi Dhyasana. And we'll see that the power behind the eyes is me. And it is different from what is known, and it is beyond that is unknown. Okay? And this is how this is explained, the Agam Shastra. This is what our Guru has taught us. That's it. You just rest there. You don't keep on arguing about it. Because argumentation is with the intellect. You just surrender. And when we reach the goal, there is no language to explain actually. That's why it's called a transcendental experience. It transcends the language, it transcends the mind, it transcends the intellect also. See, there's an ocean of difference actually between what is known and what is realized. So that's why he says it is beyond the known. So that means it has to be realized. So it is beyond known, it cannot be cognized. Because known is through the instruments. So it's beyond known, beyond the five indriyas. It's beyond the sense organs, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect. So that's why there's a wealth of meaning compressed in this third line over here. Anyat ev tat viditat at aviditat adhi. See, that's like a third part of this mantra. So anyat, very distinct, very different from the known and also the unknown. We should try to discover the deeper meaning with devotion. See, when we surrender, when we have a faith in the words of the Guru, that's called a devotion. So that is the power we need to use, devotion and love. So the known viditam means the entire objective phenomena, the subjective world can be perceived, but Atma cannot be perceived like that. Sense organs, they fall short. Seer or the perceiver cannot be perceived through the very instrument of the perception. We know that. So the knower is not the known, but beyond the known. So perceiver cannot be unknown either, because we know it's there. We know there is some power which makes us see. So it cannot be known through these limited organs, but it's not unknown either. These days we have the cameras, right there we keep on taking the pictures. But if somebody asks you, how did your great grandfather look like? You don't have a picture. So it's unknown to the senses. That object you don't have. But that doesn't mean that you did not have a great grandfather. So there was that ancestor. Because of that ancestor, the future generation was there. But you don't have a picture of it. And most of us don't even know the name of it. We have moved so far away. We don't know when that person was born. Where did he live? What kind of a trials he went through in life? But that doesn't mean that the person did not go through all kinds of trials. So this is what this Shruti is telling us, that it is a positive factor. It's not unknown. But it's not known either, because you cannot know it through these finite senses or the mind or the intellect. But it is a positive factor beyond the unknown also. So aviditat, above the unknown. See, this language of the Upanishad is very deep. If you look at each word, then it just really opens up for us. So above the unknown, it's very tricky, because ordinarily person will say it's unknown. Above the unknown. It's very intriguing. Only it's intriguing and it makes sense to a person who is ready to ponder over it. And pondering over these little verses comes when we have silenced our mind from the normal chattering of this objective world. If there's a calmness in our mind, if there's a steadiness in our mind, we are ready to ponder over these. So, in other words, you can understand it with the example of fire. Fire illuminates and burns other substances, but not itself. That's how the Atma is. It's beyond the substances. If the absolute eternal truth is beyond the known and the unknown, what else it can be but the knower itself? So it's the knower itself which is the eye behind the eyes, mind behind the mind, intelligence behind the intellect. So the knower knows the known and equally knows the unknown also. That eternal knower is the self, the Atma. So the subject matter over here is the Atma. So this is the explanation this Guru is giving. So that's why he said, Iti shu shrum purvesham. So this is the emphasis in this verse, that absolute truth is not available for us through direct perception of it with the sense organs, mind, or intellect. Nor can we deduce or infer truth. There's no inference either. No proof is available. No proof. Sometimes we want to see the proof. There's no proof available. The only proof is agam, the traditional knowledge which is repeated, endorsed, given to the respective disciples through an unbroken line of teachers. My Guru said that, his Guru said that, the same thing, his Guru, and ultimately it reaches to God. Gurus of the Guru is God. So the master in this Kenopanishad defines in the terms of the Agam, beyond the known and the unknown, because we have heard from the ancient. This is what this verse is. Let's look at verse number 4. See, this first chapter is just answering this way. Yad vachaha anabhuditam yen vak abhyudyate tad eva brahmatvam videna idam yat idam upasate. Yad means that. Vachaha, by the speech. Anabhyuditam, not revealed. Yen means by which, vak means speech, abhyudyate is revealed. That means revealed itself. Tad means that, ev means alone, Brahm, the state of Brahm, Tvam means you, Vidhi, no, na idam, not this. Yat means that, idam, this, that means here, upasate, worships. What a speech cannot reveal. Yad vacha anabhyutam, that which speech cannot reveal, but what reveals speech. So that means the words cannot reveal it, but words cannot be spoken without it. So what speech cannot reveal, but what reveals speech? Know that alone as Brahma. And not this, that people worship there. So the power of speech in the first verse, first line, the power of speech is not in the words or in the instrument of utterance. It is that power behind it which makes our instrument, gives life to the instrument of speech. It's like a dynamic life center in us. Because of that dynamic life center, speech is being uttered while we are alive. When we are not alive, no matter how beautiful the vocal cords are, no speech is being uttered. That dynamic life center. When it's absent, speech ends also. Again, though the words are uttered because of the Atma, words cannot themselves explain it. So no matter how eloquently we speak, no matter which language we speak, no matter how musical our voice is, we cannot explain Atma with it. Just as fire can burn and illumine other things, but it cannot consume or lit up itself. So this Tat word, we are familiar with this Tat word. It's a very deep significance actually, this Tat. Our attempts to explain or indicate truth can be only of a conditioned Atma. We cannot indicate the pure truth as such. It being without name or form, Tat. That's why that famous Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi, Tat. Just like electricity itself cannot be explained. At least ordinary mind cannot understand the electricity. But ordinary mind can understand when the bulb is lit. Through that electricity, bulb is giving the light. Through that electricity, the air conditioner is giving the cool air. But electricity itself we cannot. The same way the Atma is that power, that dynamic force in us which makes us speak, makes us see. So the Guru is indicating to this disciple that truth is that life center which manifests as the power of sight in the eye, power of hearing in the ear, power of speech in the tongue, etc. Power. And that power can no way be explained. Because even when we say that power, do we really understand that? What that power is? To indicate the pure self, the Atma, without its conditionings. Because when we say it gives the power to the speech or power to the eye, we are putting a conditionings on it. Without the conditionings, we cannot even understand it. Say it's absolute, all-pervading truth. And that's why the word Ev. See these Tat Ev, just very small two words, but there is a pretty deep philosophy behind these two words. Ev means alone. That means know that alone is Brahma. That Ev alone. Nothing else. No conditionings. Nothing else attached to it. This is a Vedic truth that the self in us at the time of experiencing is realized as the self of all. That's why we always say that This is the oneness in this entire universe. That is Brahma, substratum, supreme Brahma. So by stating this, that alone is Brahma, after that there is a very abrupt silence. Nothing to say beyond that actually. But then doubt might come. That's why the tat eva Brahma tvam vidhena idam yat idam upasate. What about these that we see? What about Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva, or the whole team of Ishta Devatas which we have? You must have seen a doubt in the students' eyes. So just to clean it all up, he says, na idam yat idam upasate. So very plain and open denial. He's just sweeping it clean. Na idam yat idam upasate. Not this that you worship. So it's not the form which you are worshipping. It's the Brahma which is same everywhere. That is the power. So whatever we might express by the pronoun this must be an object known. This temple, this star, this moon, this idol, those are known objects. And that object must have been perceived by somebody. That which is perceived cannot be the perceiver. And what we are seeking is the one who's behind all the instruments. It's like that power. All that we can express as this must necessarily be only a conditioned Atma. It's almost like if we have a reflection of a sun in a beautiful pond, no matter how clear the water is, no matter how beautiful that reflection is, it's not the sun. It's only a reflection. Okay. So reflection cannot be the true sun. Similarly, everything cognized as this is not Atma, and not Atma is not and can never be the eternal truth. So by a very positive assertion, removing every trace of doubt in the disciple, he says that bhakti is important, the love is important, upasana is important. So he's not denying that, but he's helping his disciple to go beyond that though. What do we attain from bhakti? What do we attain from upasana? What do we obtain by the Gyan Marg? So he's taking our eye towards that ultimate goal, that tattva, essence of Ram, essence of Krishna, essence of Shiva, essence of us, essence of everything else. He's taking us beyond the names and the forms. So this Upanishad is helping the devotee to merge into the very essence of the beloved of the heart, the Lord. That's where he's taking. That's why the philosophy without love is a madness actually. So bhakti has to be part of it. But love without philosophy becomes a superstition also. We got to merge both. So Upanishads, if we study them properly, they guide us, encourage us, they push us out of the painful sansar and very blissful realization of the wakefulness. This is where he's taking us. So whether we study part of the Upanishad or whether we study only few words alone, we'll see that they are taking us towards that truth. We should not miss the divine spark. We should not think that a reflection of the sun is the sun. We want to know what the sun is. So if reflected light can give so much glory, how much glory is in the real sun? Real sun. Yat manasaha na manutehe yen ahu manamatam tad eva brahm tvam vidhi na idam yat idam upasate. The last part of this verse is the same as the previous verse. And the next couple of verses also the same. Okay, he's just emphasizing that point. Yat means that, manasaha, by the mind. Na means never. Manute, can never feel. Yen, because of which. Ahu, say. Manaha matam, mind is called by its name. Manaha matam. Tad ev, that alone. Brahm, tvam means you. Vidhi, no. Na idam, not this. Yat means that. Idam means this. That means here. Upasate, worships. Okay. So in the last verse, he was using the example of speech. Over here, he is using the example of mind now. He says, what one cannot feel with the mind. But because of which they say that the mind feels. Okay, it could be either thinks or feels. You can use either one of those two terms over here. Manute. Okay. Know that alone as Brahma and not this which people do worship here. As a result of our self-forgetfulness, the Atma, the Supreme, we come to experience and feel for itself something which we superimpose. And superimposition is always some kind of a limitation. And from the limitations, we have the consequent confusions. And that's what happens in this world. All the religions, they are saying essentially the same thing, but they just get so fixated on the form. And with their mind, they think, no, mine is better than yours. Mine is the only reality. But the Upanishads take us beyond that. So the very ignorance of the self expressed in the intellectual zone, we just have a covering on our Atma, which is called avarna. Sometimes it could be negative thoughts, sometimes it could be positive thoughts, but there is a covering on it. And the same ignorance, when it's functioning to the mental zone, the mind, it will create agitations, restlessness. That is called vikshepa. So that's why these two words, avarna and vikshepa, keep the reality away from us. So right here, we are that. But because of these intellectual avarna and the mental agitations, they don't let us know who we are. Because we identify ourselves with the mind and the intellect. So wailing and agitations do not let us know who we are. So they are very potent capacities in us, very thick veiling and very disturbed agitations. So that's why this teacher in this Kenopanishad, by using all these terms which we are familiar with, he is bringing our attention in a very powerful way towards this who we are. So directing us towards our noble line of thinking by which we can independently become aware of our own real nature. Just rise above the mind, rise above the speech, rise above all this. So this Atma or Brahma cannot be cognized by the mind. Because mind's capacity to perceive things can function only when the mind is presided over by the Atma. When Atma is not there, then light is not there, this mind is inert. So just like in that example, bulb doesn't have any light of its own. When the electricity is flowing through the lines, only then the bulb can give the light. The same way this mind also, it has to be illumined by that soul. So this inert bulb can't do anything. No matter how beautiful that bulb is, how big that is, how clean that is, but it has to be connected with the electricity. During our upasana, the devotion part, we sometimes feel that our mental vision of the supreme reality, we do feel that. And sometimes there is a very high level of ecstasy experienced also. There could be a vision of your Ishta Devata. Whether it be the inner vision of a Devata or the outer vision, whatever we see in this world, most of the time it is our mind which is creating it. Mind. So Rishi over here says that alone is Brahma. That is Brahma where the mind has been transcended. That alone is Brahma. So the mind is not creating any kind of a form or any kind of a name. That is Brahma. Because sometimes we say formless. Even when we say formless, what is formless? That's also a form made by our mind. There's a lot of time people say Om. Om is a form too. Or light is a form too. So this Rishi is taking us beyond that. So center of the center that vitalizes you and me, that is Brahma. That is Brahma. Sure, jap and dhyan, they do serve the purpose because normally our mind is scattered mind. Our mind, as they say, it's a monkey mind. So jap and dhyan, they serve the dual purpose because with the jap and dhyan, what happens is we are limiting our thoughts. Otherwise, there are countless thoughts. We are supposed to reduce the number of thoughts. I often say that it's decrease the number of thoughts or decrease the quantity of the thought. So jap and dhyan, whether that you are reciting the mantra given by your guru or whether you are reciting some other mantra, at that time you are not saying anything else. And dhyan is when you're trying to meditate. So that's why they serve the dual purpose of limiting thoughts and changing our nature also. So those are like a preliminary sadhanas we must do. And in the course of our sadhana, mind gets gradually restricted to the form of joy. And we all learned this, whatever he's talking about over here, in the first chapter of Yog Darshan. He uses the word vikalap, vichar, anand, all those several layers of samadhis. But over here, Rishi, he knew that the student has already done all that preliminary work. So he's taking this student directly to that Brahmahood. He says, just keep your mind over there. Because ultimately the form loses its meaning and significance for the sadhak when he realizes the bliss in its purest form. That's a Sa Ananda Samadhi. Without a physical form, without a smile. Says, I am that. Initially, sure, smile of Lord Krishna, smile of your Guru, smile of Lord Ram. It's very enchanting. It's beautiful. But if you start arguing about it, start comparing about it, then we are with our mind and intellect falling down. So this Rishi is just taking us tat eva, that alone. So when we dive deeper and deeper, we realize that our real nature is bliss absolute, Ananda. So we got to surrender to the Lord, understand Him to be what the real self in us and in everybody else also. That is a realization. Once we realize that we have realized, then we have realized every deity known, every prophet born, every seer living also. And there's no agitation in the mind, and there's no question, there's no arguments, there's no who's better, who's less, which day, whom, there's no question at all. We'll start with verse number 6 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.